Pete DeBoer to take your questions. We have mic holders both sides of the room. Please wait for the microphone and raise your hand. We'll start left side, front row, Taylor. Hey, Taylor.
Hi, Pete. That was a probably difficult decision to pull Jake after those first 2 goals. Can you kind of just talk us through the reasoning behind it and what your messaging to the team was when you called that timeout?
Well, anytime you pull a goalie, there's the reasoning's always to try and spark your group. So that was the number one reason. We had talked endlessly in this series about trying to play with the lead, and obviously we were in a 2-0 hole right away. And you know what? I didn't take that lightly, and I didn't blame it all on Jake. But the reality is if you go back to last year's playoffs, he's lost 6 to 7 games to Edmonton, and we gave up 2 shots on 2 goals in an elimination game. So, it was partly to spark our team and wake them up, and partly, knowing that, status quo had not been working, and that's a pretty big sample size.
Left side, second row, Tim.
Yeah, Pete, is there a part of you with this suddenly over that you're a little bit stunned at how this 4 games in a row went?
Yeah, I think so. It's a good question. I think, I'll tell you what I told our group. I think it's possible to be 2 things at the same time. I'm really proud of the resiliency of our group through the first 2 rounds. We scratched and clawed and found a way to beat 2 really good teams. And I'm also disappointed, that we didn't find another level, another gear here, another way. Getting back here to this point, how hard it is to get back here again. And so, I would say I'm both those things, and that's. I think that's okay, and I think our group needs to go and, coaches, players, and reflect in the summer on what we can do better when we get to this point against the best teams. But there's no doubt the 2 best teams are playing, for the cup.
Left side, third row, Ryan.
Pete, you look at the over here.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, you look at the situation you're in where you're very much in a championship window. You've advanced to 3 straight conference finals, but yet you don't go to the cup final. So how do you sort of reconcile the place where you guys are in as a franchise, knowing like you're where you want to be, but you're just not exactly where you want to be?
Well, you got to keep knocking on the door. Listen, the examples are endless in this league. The Washington Capitals, a decade of knocking on the door, on and on. So it's a really, really hard league to win in. And when you get down to the end of the Final Four here, it gets exponentially tougher, and all your weaknesses get exposed. And you know what, I give our guys credit. I thought we fought. Again, we chased every single game in this series, and that's a tough way to play hockey against that team because, it was a story of the entire series. But their 4th goal, Connor's goal, we're pushing to try and get back in the game, and puck bounces into the neutral zone. He's coming off the bench, and he's not missing that. It's game over.
Left side, front row, Robert.
Hey, Pete.
Robert.
Hey, it's kind of an unfair question, but how do you explain a start like that in an elimination game where you're kind of looking to see everyone empty the tank right off the bat, and then you start like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I think we got to look, in our room and at our group, but we didn't roll over. I think that's the good news. The start obviously wasn't good enough, but we didn't roll over. You look at the playoff trail. There's a lot of teams that would have lost that game going away. We worked right to the end.
Right side, front row.
Pete, when you look at the way that you then bounced back after the rough start, how do you, when you evaluate the game in its totality, how do you make sense of the way that you did start against the fact that they were able to then find a much different level?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's a little bit of our, the reflection we'll have to do as a group. It's been a group, that always kind of needs to get pushed up against the wall before, we come out swinging. In my mind, that I felt that's kind of always been a little bit of the case. So, it bit us tonight.
We'll take a few more. Left side, second row.
Hey, Pete, when it comes to starting strong, where's kind of the line on where that's responsibility of coaches and where that's the responsibility of players?
Oh, I think it's on everybody, Listen, we couldn't have started stronger than we did last game, and I don't think our starts have been crazy bad. We haven't capitalized on our chances, and we've given up the first goal every game in the series. So that's on. There's a lot of things in there. It's not as easy as, well, the guys aren't ready to play. I don't think that's the case. I think it's a lot of things. I mean, tonight, you stick a young guy in there, he takes a penalty. That's not on him. We got to get a kill there. We got to get a save. You got to get something.
Two more. Left side, fourth row, Jonah.
Hey, Pete. Jeff Kolb, Fox 4. You talk about knocking on the door, being close. How do you feel like this was the best of the three Dallas teams you've had so far, and how close do you feel like you are?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it was. Maybe on paper, I'm not sure it was the best team. And I think, I'll have to look at it. But I think the way we ended the season, I think bled into the playoffs a little bit for us. Which I think, still doesn't sit right with me. Although we found a way to get through two really tough teams, that was a little bit of a red flag for me, that it went on that long and the way it went on. But that's stuff I'll have to look back at in the summer. So, your question, on paper, it might have been the best team we've had here. I'm not sure it was the best team we've had. I can tell you, on the other side, that Edmonton team is better than the team we played last year. Deeper, defend harder to play against. That's a lot better team than the team we played last year in the conference final.
Right side, fourth row.
Coach, you may have just kind of answered it. About 6 weeks ago, you said that the loss to Vegas was kind of understandable because you thought Vegas was better.
Yeah.
Last year, it's tougher because you thought you were better than Edmonton.
I did, yeah.
I'm guessing you don't feel like you're better than Edmonton this year.
I didn't feel like we were better than Edmonton in this series. I mean, I think it sounds crazy to say with the goals scored and things like that. I think this was a closer series than the numbers are going to say or the 5 games are going to say. But I don't think we were a better team.
Last one, back row on the left, Mark.
Yeah,
Mark.
Pete, I hope it's fair to ask you now that the series is over. You just mentioned Edmonton was a better team than last year. What do you think made them tougher? What made them a better club?
Well, they defend a lot harder. You got 6 veteran defensemen back there. 7 probably, right, with Stetcher and when he's in. So, their commitment to defend, and it's not just their defense, but all their best players are defending hard. And then, you also have that game-breaking ability. Their power play killed us in the series, although the special teams were more even than they were last year. And again, I would have liked to have seen if we could have got them in a hole, how they would have responded. We never did. So I don't have that perspective. But, with the lead every game, they were impressive the way they handled that.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
Pete.
you.
Penalty. Borg's not trying to take a penalty, obviously, but took a penalty and they got the lead and kind of compounded from there.
You're trying to come back. You get within a goal a couple times. What do you think it was that made it difficult to maybe get that tying goal before they eventually get up by 2 and then more?
Well, I don't know the timing of it, but I think they scored pretty quickly both times, relatively pretty quick. So it's disappointing. Yeah.
When Pete pulls Ottinger, what's the message you guys take from that?
Well, we got to step up. I mean, it's unacceptable for us to let him hang him out like that. I mean, whole playoffs, he's been our guy whole season. It's just unacceptable for us.
You've, of course, gone through some good things and difficult things here, but a loss like this where you're the first team to go to 3 conference finals and not advance to the Stanley Cup, like, how does something like that sit and resonate with you, knowing that, like, there is an expectation here to win?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have that answer right now, but yeah, it doesn't feel good.
There's a number of moments, not just in this game, but this series, where you guys own the play. Is there a theme in the end that you guys were able to decipher that you just weren't able to get the results from that play?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of opportunities this series to score some goals. Obviously, not getting a lead or the first goal killed us. I think that was kind of the theme.
Is it frustrating for you? You're working your way back from injury and you're just getting hot and now it's kind of over?
No, I'm just upset I wasn't able to do it earlier.
You guys were pretty good defensively through the first 2 rounds. What do you think about this Edmonton team that allowed them to get behind your play a lot?
Well, I mean, the power play was, I don't know how their power play was this series percentage-wise, but I know they had a lot of power play goals, so we were undisciplined. Yeah, they're a fast break team. They get one break, they're gone. I mean, they score goals. We just couldn't defend when we were pushing and cost us.
Robo, I know you said a little bit about the start, but first 8 minutes, you're in your own barn. How do you guys just explain that with this veteran group?
Yeah, it was disaster. Go down 3 goals. Bang, bang, bang. I mean, but, a couple years ago we did the same thing. We went down a lot. So, I mean, we fought back today. We weren't going to let that happen. Case kept us in it. We were able to get a couple chances. Then, I mean, they just countered 1-2 goals right after. So, that's unfortunate.
Last couple of seasons, you guys have had these instances where you haven't gotten off to great starts. Looked like this year you'd kind of solved some of that problem. Is that just bad habits creeping back in?
No, I mean, every game is different. I thought we were going to be on our toes today. Just get the first goal immediately. Couldn't stop the bleeding for the next 8 minutes. So I thought, felt like that the whole series. When you're playing good, you get the first couple each period, and then you're chasing it. So, but we fought back to make it interesting this game. Guys were quitted, and yeah.
Jason, that first intermission after Otter gets pulled, what's the message and how'd you guys regroup? Because you came back out, got another goal after that, closed the lead. What was that first intermission like for you guys?
Well, I mean, we got, we were within reach. We weren't down in the game. We weren't out. So, I mean, the case is going in, giving us a chance, and we pushed hard. So
I think not what you want to do in elimination.
How do you explain that veteran group, you guys at home, and it just seemed like it just wasn't there? What can you put your finger?
I don't know. I mean, obviously we had a kill there early, which could have been a really good opportunity for us to get that done and try to build from it. Our kills was great all year, and so we had confidence, but I think obviously didn't get that one, didn't get the kill there, and we managed to capitalize again after that.
Your team had dominant moments of its own, not just in this game, but in this entire series. Were you guys able to decipher why you didn't get the results from that one?
I'm not sure. I think I guess not doing enough of it. When you're in the conference final, you're playing one of the best teams in the league, and they're obviously a great team who can make you pay. So, I think definitely could have done a better job with, when we're playing with that energy, just keep that going, and not allow them to get into the zone with, and rushing, stuff like that.
Wyatt on an expiring contract. How can you put into words his value to this team?
Yeah, it's huge. He's our captain. He's our leader. He's a guy that we follow every day, and so yeah, just such a important part of our team, on the ice, off the ice, and just an amazing person.
First period when Pete called that timeout, what was the message?
Be better. I don't know. We were down 2-0 pretty early. I think it was pretty self-explanatory. What was said and what was the message in that situation.
It's tough when you can't get past the conference finals these last number of years, but teams can take these moments and get stronger from them. Is it too early to know, the lessons that were learned this time around?
Yeah, I think you learn every year. You learn new things, but this is not the end goal for us. This is, need to go through the conference final, and it's not easy to get there, but our goal is to win the Stanley Cup. So, I think you always want to learn, and I think that's good that you can learn from it. But we want to win.
How mentally draining is it to have to chase the game all the time? You never scored first in this series, or almost the whole playoffs.
I think in playoffs it's a lot easier to play with a lead, to some extent than being down. And so I think getting the first goal a little more often would have helped. I want to say we probably won a lot of those, probably all the games. I know there wasn't many that we scored first, but probably won maybe all of those. So, I think we're a resilient team, and we showed that we could come back from a lead, but that's not. It's not what we want to do.
Wyatt, when you're in the Western Conference Finals 3 straight years, you're obviously really, really good. The margins are that thin. Do you really think you need to change that much?
It's a good question. I think we definitely had moments in games and times where we definitely felt really good with our game. It felt like we deserved maybe better, but I think it's just at the end of the day it's super important just to be so consistent with your being at the top of your game. Just as you mentioned, those bounces, the margins are so thin. You need to be so dialed in and so at the top of your game at pretty much all times, or else teams will make you pay. And at the end of the day, we were one of the best teams in the league, and that's exciting. I think we also can learn as well.
Collectively, you guys had a lot of big goal scorers that went cold down the stretch here. I guess, how do you get over something like that in a playoff where it's such small sample sizes to begin with?
I don't know. I think at the end of the day, you need results. Come playoff time, you're not going to win games from, just outscoring, out-chancing team. You need to score. And so I think that's one thing that makes us, made us a great team all year was our depth. And everyone talks about how much tighter it gets come playoff time and how much harder it is to score. And so, it would have been nice, especially for me to help the boys out and get a couple throughout the series. And I don't know. I think just do a better job at, scoring.
Just what's the feeling after that? Obviously, the giving up the early goals is something that's been a problem during this whole series. Was it tough to play from behind 2-0?
Yeah, it is. I think the whole playoffs was kind of the problem. We didn't score the first goal many times, and this series I don't think we did it once. I think the only lead we had was in the game 1. So it's for sure easier to play with the lead, and that's maybe one thing that stings a little bit. We weren't able to start games on the score sheet. We started the game well, but we weren't able to take advantage and score when we had opportunities.
How different is it playing with the lead and playing from behind?
Yeah, it's very different. If you look at how they played the whole series when they had the lead, it's hard to play against.
You can counterattack, yeah.
Counterattack, and then if you look at how we played in the third when we were up against them, then you start to get odd man rushes because they're overplaying. That's kind of what they did to us. So, yeah, disappointing, but
When you look at the kind of starts of the game, is that more of an execution or a mentality thing?
Which one, sorry?
Like when you look at the first period starts and being down 1-0 quite a bit, is it more of an execution thing or a mentality thing that you guys look at when you kind of go into the offseason?
Yeah, maybe execution, but I think mostly it's it's hard to score in this league, and when you get chances to score on a good day, you put those chances away, and all of a sudden you get a 2-goal lead. Like, good example, the game 4 first period. We were on them the whole period, and getting chances every shift, and then 1 power play and 1-0 to them. So that's kind of the difference, when you get a chance. But everybody's trying to score. It's maybe Skinner had a number this series.
Mikko, this is your first playoff run with this team. What's your takeaway in what this team can do really well in the playoffs and what they still need to learn how to do in the playoffs?
Resilient group, I'm very proud how everybody battled, it's even today, obviously very tough start and not ideal to start the game like that, but fought back and, 3-2, had some looks to tie it, and then unfortunate break for them to get a breakaway there, but yeah, I'm proud, and yeah, I don't know, it's too early to say, what there is to improve. I think we got a long summer now to think about it, but yeah, it's 3 years in a row this team has been this close, so I don't know, it stings for sure.
You mentioned the break. You guys fall behind 3-0, battle back to make it 3-2, and then they get that awkward bounce that leads to a breakaway of all people, McDavid. Is that the point where maybe you guys started to feel like this just isn't our time?
Yeah, well, belief was still there for sure. Get a goal early in the third, but those sting for sure. Similar in the third when you get a goal, it's 1-goal game, 17, 18 minutes left, and then chucks a puck in front of the net from behind the net, goes in and off Esa. So another bounce, but you gotta earn your bounces in the playoffs, and they did.
What did you think about the decision to bench Jake?
I don't know, coaches make decisions, and we were not ready. We were not helping Jake at all in the first 2 goals, so that's on us, not on Jake.
How surprised were you that you guys weren't more ready? I know in the timeout, Jamie said that Pete said, it was pretty much a message to wake up. How surprising was that?
Yeah, I thought we had a couple of good first shifts, then they score on the power play, then score right after, on a change, and get a breakaway, which obviously can't happen in these kind of games. So, yeah, I think we were ready to start the game, and but it was I don't know what happened there. They were just they get a chance and they scored. I feel like that was the start of the game.
We've had a few series where you had some third period comebacks against Colorado and Winnipeg. It seemed like those where you had the one in game 1, but it seemed like it's tougher in game 3 against Edmonton from the outside. Did it feel like that to you guys too?
Yeah, I think they defended well. We got to give credit to Edmonton. They defended well whole series when they had the lead, and they played simple, not a lot of mistakes. They made really hard on us to generate good looks, and Skinner was making saves when needed.
You talked about after Colorado that you felt like there were some similarities with this team to that 2022 team that you wanted to all win. Was there ever a point where that feeling changed after that?
No, we had belief all the time. I think even those games we lost in Edmonton, I felt like could have won at least one of them. So there was belief until the final buzzer for sure.
When you get this far 3 straight years, there's going to be a lot of discussion about what's the missing link, what's the missing ingredient. I know you're still very new here, but just coming in with fresh eyes, is there something you can diagnose that, hey, we need more X?
I don't know. I think it's too early, for me to say right after the series, and I think we played 2 good rounds, and then kind of they made it hard on us, and we didn't fight through it enough to earn to win a series or win tonight to push another game, and we just we just didn't do enough. You know, I think everybody tried everything we had, and we emptied the tanks. But maybe just give credit to them; they defended really well.
What do you learn about Pete DeBoer and just his ability to coach a team at this highest level and what he means to this group?
Yeah, he means a lot. You know, he's a great coach. He's been around for a long time, a lot of experience, and he's a good motivator. You know, on the guys, and yeah, only good things to say about him. You know, he is good. You know, pumping up everybody. You know, waking us up and for sleeping, and he's just overall good coach.
See another slow start. You guys were, I think, third in the regular season in scoring. First during the playoffs, that was just a different story, especially this series. Did you see anything? Is there anything there as far as giving up the first goal, and then how hard is it to play from behind?
You know, obviously we didn't want to do that. They had a good PP. They took advantage. You know, and they're our team to come back from. You know, we had some good pushes there, but it seemed like they responded every time we scored.
I mean, we've seen statistically, it's just really hard to play from behind. I mean, and you guys did push in a lot of these games, but percentages say that if you give up that first goal, it's going to be hard.
It's a lot easier playing with the lead. It just didn't happen tonight.
Jamie, in your time here, you know, where do you feel like this team was as far as good of a roster as you had to make a run at the top?
It's got to be, you know, at the top. I felt like we had a solid group from top to bottom, and that's why you know, this stinks pretty bad.
When you guys got it to 3-2, when you got it to 4-3, what was the belief level, and how close do you feel like you guys were to making it happen?
It was high. Yeah, there's no quit in this group, and you know, even when it was 3-0, we felt like we could come back, and just fell short tonight.
Losing to them again, is that difficult, or do you just look at them and say they're a really good team?
No, it sucks. I mean, 3 years in a row now. You get that close and you come up short. Doesn't matter who you're playing. Obviously, not a good feeling.
Early in that first period, the two quick goals, coach calls a timeout. What was the message there and the reaction when Jake gets pulled?
Pretty much wake up and we'll start playing. Kind of left Jakey out to dry there early on, and it's pretty much the message.
What did you think of that decision to pull Jake?
A little bit about the start, but
it's not my call.
When you skated off the ice, any thoughts about your future?
No.
None?
Jim Nill said before this season, you know, as long as he's the GM, he wants you to be a Dallas Star. Is that pretty much how you felt throughout?
Yeah.
Jamie, do you feel good about your chances of remaining a Dallas Star for the foreseeable future?
Yep.
If you're here next year, what needs to change for you guys to get that next step?
Just look in the mirror. You know, we all can be a little better here.
You think about getting, you know, Mikko mid-season, you know, dealing with some of the injuries with Miro at the start of the postseason. You know, how much do you think those things factored into, you know, some of the challenge in this postseason?
We went through a lot of adversity all year. You know, we always rose up to the challenge, and it didn't matter who was out. You know, guys were stepping up, and you know, we just didn't get it done here.
As far as Pete, what has he meant as far as his leadership, and you know, what's made it special with him getting to this, you know, Final Four 3 years in a row?
Wyatt, Johnston.
He's meant a lot. You know, a great coach, and I think he's done a hell of a job with our group, and it's been a lot of fun playing for him.